The House of Commons exploded today, not with policy or calm debate, but with laughter, outrage and pure disbelief. Kemi Badenoch just delivered one of the most brutal takedowns seen in British politics this year. Keir Starmer and his Labour MPs were left red-faced as Badenoch fired back with a speech so sharp, even the Speaker struggled to control the chaos. What began as a routine question turned into a political earthquake, one that has everyone talking, from MPs to journalists to viewers at home. This wasn't just another argument in Parliament. This was a complete political humiliation, live and unfiltered. It all began during a heated session in the House of Commons. The air was already thick with tension. You could sense it the moment the cameras switched on. MPs were restless, papers were rustling, and the energy felt ready to explode. Keir Starmer, confident as always, rose to his feet to question the government on what he called a failure of leadership over one of the most debated issues of the week. A topic that had already divided Parliament and stirred anger across the country. Starmer's tone was measured but loaded. He accused the government of inconsistency, of saying one thing and doing another. His voice echoing across the chamber as Labour MPs nodded behind him. It was a familiar scene. The opposition leader standing tall, throwing his carefully prepared criticism toward the front bench. But this time, things didn't go the way he expected. Kemi Badenoch, sitting just a few seats away from the Prime Minister, looked completely unshaken, calm, composed. You could almost see the confidence in her posture. When the Speaker called her name, she stood up slowly, a slight smile on her face. And the entire room seemed to tense. What came next wasn't just a reply, it was a full-blown counterattack. She started with facts, direct, no nonsense, and delivered in a steady voice. She reminded Starmer of his own track record, the policies he supported before changing his position, and the promises that, in her words, evaporated faster than a Labour press release. Her words hit hard. Even the government benches started to murmur with approval. Badenoch's tone wasn't angry, it was surgical, calm, confident, and devastatingly sharp. Starmer tried to interject, but Badenoch didn't pause. She leaned forward slightly, emphasising every word. "The leader of the opposition likes to lecture this government about consistency," she said, her voice rising just enough to cut through the noise. But perhaps he should start by being consistent with himself. The chamber erupted in laughter and gasps. The Speaker's voice echoed, "Order, order!" But it was too late. The damage was done. Camera cuts would show Starmer looking down at his notes, visibly irritated, while his MPs tried to regain control. Badenoch seized that moment and went further. She began listing example after example, moments where Labour had changed positions, backtracked, or avoided clear-tone answers. Each point was met with cheers from the Conservative side. And with every line, her confidence grew. But what made the moment truly explosive wasn't just her words, it was how she delivered them. Badenoch's tone wasn't theatrical, it was natural, like someone who'd finally had enough of being talked down to. She called out what she saw as hypocrisy in plain terms, saying, "You can't lead a country when you can't even decide what you stand for." Another wave of reaction hit the chamber. Laughter, shouts, and a few stunned faces from the Labour benches. At this point, even neutral observers could sense the shift. The debate had turned. What was meant to be an attack from the opposition had transformed into a showcase of Badenoch's confidence and command of the moment. The Speaker had to call for order again as MPs on both sides struggled to contain themselves. In the days leading up to this exchange, rumours had already been circulating about growing pressure within Labour to appear stronger in debates. Starmer had been urged to go harder on the government, but this time that strategy backfired spectacularly. Badenoch didn't just defend her position, she flipped the narrative completely, turning Starmer's criticism into an open invitation for political self-destruction. Every time she spoke, her words seemed to echo with intent. "We don't take lectures on leadership," she declared, "from a party that can't even lead itself." Another eruption followed. Some MPs were laughing, others were shouting across the aisle. Even through the noise, Badenoch remained composed, almost amused by the reaction she was causing. What made it all the more powerful was that she didn't rely on scripted talking points. Her delivery felt authentic, spontaneous, the kind of sharp, confident rhetoric that cuts through the noise of political spin. Viewers watching the broadcast could feel it too. The clip began, spreading online almost immediately. Within minutes, snippets of her speech were being shared across social media with captions like "Kemi destroys Starmer" and "Commons in chaos" after Badenoch's brutal comeback. By the time she finished, the chamber had turned into a storm of noise. Some applauding, some protesting, but everyone reacting. It wasn't just another debate. It was a moment that redefined the tone between government and opposition, at least for that day. The tension inside the House of Commons reached a boiling point. You could feel the energy shift as Badenoch prepared to deliver her next line. The Speaker tried to restore calm, but the noise wouldn't die down. Laughter and chatter filled the air. Then, in a calm but powerful tone, she dropped the line that made the entire Parliament erupt. She said, "The leader of the opposition wants to talk about credibility." This from a man who changes his principles faster than he changes his tie. The chamber exploded. MPs were shouting, some laughing, others slamming their desks in disbelief. Even members on the Labour benches couldn't help but smile at the brutal honesty of the remark. It was one of those rare political moments where a single sentence silences an entire opposition. As Badenoch continued, she wasn't yelling. She didn't need to. Her voice cut through the uproar with precision. Every word was deliberate, every phrase carefully aimed. "You can't claim to be the voice of working people," she said, "when your own party can't agree on what it stands for." The Conservative MPs roared in agreement while Labour MPs shouted back, trying to drown her out. The Speaker stood, calling "order, order" over and over again. But the chaos refused to stop. This was political theatre at its finest, except it wasn't scripted. It was raw, real and unsparing. The camera caught Starmer's face, a forced smile, trying to hide the embarrassment. He tried to respond, but the noise was too loud. Badenoch had seized the moment completely. She didn't just win the argument, she owned the room. The energy inside the Commons was electric. Some MPs were laughing, others were shaking their heads, and the Speaker was visibly struggling to bring the chamber back under control. Badenoch ended her speech with a final steady blow. "While Labour is busy rewriting its past, we're focused on building Britain's future." That line landed like a punch. It summed up the entire exchange. Confident, clear and cutting. Then came the eruption. Shouts of approval, laughter. Even clapping, rare in the Commons, echoed across the chamber. Starmer tried to move on, but the noise refused to fade. The Speaker leaned forward again, demanding silence, but the reaction said everything. The atmosphere was electric, charged with the kind of energy that only comes from witnessing a political moment that everyone knows will trend online within minutes. Within hours, clips of the clash began flooding social media. The moment Kemi Badenoch delivered that changes his principles faster than his tideline went viral almost instantly. On Twitter, hashtags like hashtag Kemi Badenoch, hashtag Commons Chaos, and hashtag Starmer Destroyed started trending. Supporters praised her for being bold, fearless and unfiltered. Even critics admitted she had dominated the exchange. Some journalists called it the most explosive Commons moment of the year. News outlets quickly picked it up. Commentators debated whether Badenoch's fiery performance was a sign of future leadership potential. Talk shows and political podcasts dissected her every line. Headlines read, "Badenoch slams Starmer in heated Commons clash," and Tory minister's scathing comeback leaves Labour rattled. What stood out to many was how comfortable she appeared under pressure. In a room known for shouting matches and interruptions, she never lost her composure. She didn't rely on notes or scripted answers. She spoke like someone who had been waiting for this moment. Every sentence carried intent, confidence and a hint of humour, the kind that hits hard but doesn't sound forced. Political analysts pointed out that this moment showed Badenoch's growing influence in Parliament. She's known for being outspoken, but this time her assertiveness turned into a display of power. Some Conservative backbenchers later said it reminded them of the kind of sharp, fearless debating style the party had been missing. Even among Labour supporters, there was quiet acknowledgement that Starmer had been caught off guard. Online, the reactions kept pouring in. Memes, short clips and edits spread like wildfire. One viral post showed a split screen of Starmer looking down, while Badenoch smiled confidently. Captioned, "When the homework helper becomes the teacher," another had the line, "You can't lead a country when you can't decide what you stand for," repeated over a beat, turning her speech into a trending remix clip. But beyond the laughter and online noise, the moment revealed something deeper. Viewers watching at home felt that rare spark, the feeling that they were witnessing genuine conviction instead of rehearsed politics. Badenoch's style resonated with many who are tired of overly polished, cautious speeches. Her confidence and tone gave people the sense that she wasn't just defending the government, she was standing up for herself, her beliefs and her party. As the day ended, reporters outside Westminster described it as one of the liveliest sessions of the year. The footage replayed across major channels all evening. Analysts debated who truly won the exchange, but the public reaction was clear. Badenoch had dominated the narrative. By nightfall, her name had been searched more than any other UK politician that day. Commentators called it a watershed moment for her career, the kind of viral moment that reshapes political perception overnight. Whether you agreed with her or not, one thing was undeniable. Kemi Badenoch had turned a simple Commons debate into a masterclass in control, confidence and command. And as the cameras faded out and the Speaker finally restored order, one thing was certain. That day, Keir Starmer and Labour MPs learned a painful lesson. Underestimate Kemi Badenoch and you might just end up on the wrong side of history. Live in front of the entire nation.